On a day like today, we'll take the green with both hands, and most of those names happen to be from the auto space today. Prakash Diwan is joining us on this leg of the show to take the conversation forward. Prakash, great to be talking to you again after a gap. And you're in a happy color, in a happy yellow. We're the ones wearing red. But let me take off from where Sonia just left. Really, I mean, what have you made of the sort of auto commentary and the numbers you've seen over the last 24 hours? Maruti, TVS sounding extremely confident. Let's talk about the OEMs first. What have you made of it, and which OEM stock, would get top billing from you?
Yeah, thanks, Survi, and welcome back. Great to have you chatting on the show again. Essentially, the auto numbers were supposed to be very specifically different for companies. Okay, there was no broad brush trend that was anticipated, and that's exactly what probably seems to be coming through. So, for example, Maruti had, after a long time, an improvement in margins. Of course, there's a lot that you could attribute to the price hike and the product mix and things like that. And there's this newfound aggression to go back and capture some sort of market share in the SUV segment with the recent launches. And I'm extremely bullish on the launch of the Jimny, because that's going to redefine the company's growth the way the Swift did about 8-10 years back. So, for me, Maruti's numbers are very encouraging. Some of the numbers like TVS, you could probably say, understand that there's a catch up that it's playing, given the fact that it is into EVs, but the market's probably not fully cognizant of the fact that they are going to be so big here, and you don't see them as active in the market as yet. So that's the thing. And of course, Tata Motors will give us a very good indication of how globally things are taking shape in terms of the chip shortage and general demand trajectories. But overall, though this quarter is supposed to be a soft one for auto players, OEMs, it's turned out to be, till now, it's been fairly decent, and I would expect that Jan, Feb, March is going to be only better. So, all those transitions to EVs, the kind of shortages going, falling way behind you, and ramping up production, demand coming back, all of that's probably very positive for the sector. There could be some re-rating. My topic continues to be M&M and Maruti, for very different reasons, of course. But these two definitely seem to be very strong at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And hi, Prakash. Indus Towers, wanted to get your thoughts on Indus Towers. It's a fresh 52-week low on the stock. It's now down to levels of 157. This is after the company reported its loss for the first time ever, a maiden loss of 708 crores, after the company wrote off some of the receivables that were due from one of the leading telecom companies, which should be read as Vodafone Idea. So the company wrote off 2,300 crore of receivables in Q3, and in the first 9 months of the year, they've had to write off close to 5,700 crore rupees. Prakash, the risk is not only this receivables risk, but it's also the dividend risk, because Indus Towers is a dividend-paying company. If they don't get those receivables, their cash flows get impacted, which then affects, their dividend payout and how much they can pay out. And secondly, there's so much uncertainty about the future of Vodafone Idea. And I spoke to many analysts, and they seem to suggest about 35 to 40% of Indus's revenues depend on Vodafone Idea. Given all those uncertainties, where would you put the fair value for Indus Towers?
Good afternoon, Rima. So, I mean, it's a tough call. Indus had finally to bite the bullet. This was definitely something which was in the making, and you could see it coming. And this was a very complex repayment scheme that they'd agreed to, given the precarious financial condition that Vodafone Idea exists into. And somewhere it was to give way, and it has. And unfortunately, it's not just a balance sheet. Right now, you're seeing a significant P&L impact, because that's where they've taken it, right? And my guess is, after this, if you don't anticipate any further write-offs of this magnitude, there could be some more. I'm not saying this is the last. Maybe there could be another quarter of stress. But after the March 23 balance sheet repair and whatever you had to fracture it, damage it, after that, at least Indus Towers has a very clear trajectory to grow along for the 5G rollouts. Now, you can't do without Indus Towers as a player in the 5G rollout, whether it's Jio or whether it's Bharti. They would have to kind of definitely rely on that. And that's where I think they'll probably be able to make up for a little bit of that growth miss or this huge hit that they've taken. So I think it's going to be difficult times, but they're going through this belt tightening phase, or whatever you want to call it, so that they can survive to be in the 5G space, which is far more promising, and I'm sure the tenancies are going to be far more lucrative for them. So you'll have to wait for that. It's more of a price correction and now a time correction that you'll go through. The fair value, it's probably below fair value if you ask me. The kind of assets that it has and all this has been an unfortunate, unexpected kind of a hit that's impacted the price. But somewhere it'll probably recover and stabilize at those 170, 180 zones.
You know, the only downside risk of even this 5G play for Indus Towers is, one, Vodafone Idea so far hasn't participated, and two, even for Bharti Airtel and Jio, they may just go with more loading rather than rather than having a lot more towers. But of course, it's still early days for the 5G rollouts for Bharti as well as Vodafone Idea.
Is there widespread ownership in Indus Tower? I mean, frankly, I've not come across anyone who has. It's completely out of circulation, right? There used to be a point, I remember it before. I mean, actually, right after listing, there was a fair bit of interest because it was one of the first tower companies out there. But it's a one-way secular decline, right? The high was in 2021, $300, 330 or so, and it's basically half from there. Even as, telecom operators have done well. Bharti, of course, is a case in point. But it's an interesting one, and it's a tough one, though, as Rima has been pointing out. We'll take a very quick break here. The first on the show, Prakash stays with us. We'll talk stocks and top portfolio calls, also with our Alpha Manager of the Day, Ajay Vora of Nuvama Asset Management, with us in just a bit.